Previously on The Devil on G-String.
It was Azai Gonzo's voice. The turbidity of my consciousness forced me to mistake my own voice. The monster of fear that had pervaded my entire being roared out. I moved forward. Shoulder the karma of your mother, who died squashed like a worm. Bear the sadness of your brother, who went mad with revenge. And go forth to your enemy's daughter. My head bumped into something. It was a hard wall of iron. I tried pushing against it, but it didn't budge an inch. My fingers started to twitch. My chest was scorched by an inferno of vexation. I looked up at the wall. 46th floor was painted on it. It was a fire shutter. God damn! The fire shutters! I'll need to find another way. Like a freight elevator or a dumb waiter or something like that. Like a ventilation shaft big enough for a person to fit through. Like anything at all. Like some hidden secret passage. Or a hole that the terrace blew in the floor. Is there anything at all to get me started? Search. It's already well past 10 minutes, the 10 minutes I promised. Will I be breaking yet another promise? Usami. I bet she's placed her faith in me, even now. And yet, God damn it!
And so it continues.
Greetings, my name's Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of The Devil on G-String. So, looks like we're back on the line with Sir Negotiator, and we are now expecting a more sincere answer this time. I, for one, or at least Kyohei is. I'm not. After exactly 1 hour, I received another call from the police. I'm well aware that Superintendent Tokita is in a tough position. The government and police force are going to want to retain their firm position on this. And that, of course, means they have no intention of allowing the release of prisoners. That said, it's much too convenient to expect me to release the hostages and surrender without seeing proof that at least some of the prisoners have been released. The government probably figures that all they need to do is fire enough cops to correspond to the number of casualties, and everything will turn out fine. However, Superintendent Tokita's next words completely overturned my expectations. Some of them. Well, which ones? I laughed through my nose.
交渉人にはフェイクスという戦術があるそうだが。
にわかには信じがたいだろう。しかしこれは事実だ。我々は人命尊重の観点から君たち武装グループの要求を条件付きで認めることにした。
It took nearly 5 hours less than I thought it would. Honestly, I wasn't sure how probable the odds were of the government accepting my demands until I actually put it into action. It just goes to show you how valuable Imagawa's life is. Or, perhaps it's a trap.
条件とは？
まず君が指名したすべての人間を釈放することは認められない。
Very good.
特に国内過激派の主格、過去に政府転覆を企てた。
He then went on to list the names I had prepared as dummies one by one. I didn't care about any of those people to begin with. I only included them because I figured they could work as leverage in my negotiations with the police.
ふざけた条件だな。
To be truthful, I wanted to give the green light right away. But if I jumped at the offer, they would find that suspicious. I should pretend to be angry, but also show a willingness for compromise.
ということは残ったのは
筧陽介、南田公江、鮫島俊勝の3名だ。
ふざけるな。たったの3人だと。
As expected, my father made the list. After all, though there was a time he was rumored to be part of an extremist faction, he's not the real deal. In reality, he's just a good-natured death row inmate with absolutely no political ideals.
これでも最大限の譲歩だとは思わないか？
Indeed I do. It's fantastic.
断れば武力解決も辞さないというわけだな。
最大限の譲歩と言っただろう。これがいかに常識を逸脱した決断か察してもらえないだろうか。
I gave the nod for the time being.
回答は後回しにして他の条件を聞こう。
無論人質の解放、封鎖区域でのボートの沈静化、そして
我々の投降というわけだな。
If we were judged according to Japanese law, it would without a doubt result in a death penalty.
では囚人の身柄についてだが。
I gave details on how the prisoners should be escorted out of the country. They are to be airlifted to Komura, near the Japanese coast, and then shipped to North Korea by sea. It's rather similar to my arms smuggling route. I've arranged for a comrade of mine to pick up my dad after the ship gets out of Japanese waters.
了解した。それではこの取引は成立したと考えていいのかな？
5分後にかけ直す。
I then hung up the phone. In any case, the answer I will give in 5 minutes has already been decided. I couldn't suppress my emotions. I won. It was a grand sense of fulfillment. Father. I don't know. Something about this seems a bit off to me personally. I have a feeling you're right to suspect that this could be a trap of some kind. Couldn't say why, though. I need more information. Just as Haru had predicted, the cable had ruthlessly snapped. The only thing at her feet now was a single bar. The number of cables supporting her weight had dwindled down to 2, and they groaned incessantly under the stress. Haru had to balance herself constantly, as if she were part of some deathly circus. That alone was a great difficulty. It was only compounded each time the gondola, or rather what was left of it, shook wildly. The wind played pranks on her. She tried to straighten herself up. She was out of time. The cables wouldn't hold much longer. The sounds they made as they lay on the verge of snapping were like the shrieks of the Reaper. Haru called his name in fragmented breaths. There was no sign of anyone on the other side of the window. The only thing visible there was her reflection, pale from fear. She gritted her teeth and withstood the fear as long as she could, but there was no sign that her circumstances would improve. It was so cold. Snow began to fall once more. In this situation, even the nearly weightless snow was a highly unwelcome guest to this platform. God, what should I do? She could literally hear her heart pounding. Her legs started to rattle. Courage, the very defining trait of a hero, gradually started to diffuse away from her into the vast depths below. She timidly looked upwards. 2 cables. They played the role of Haru's lifeline. But very soon the curtain would be coming down, and their act would come to an end. I'm sorry, Kyosuke-kun. In the end, she decided to think of him. She didn't want to spend her final moments trembling in fear. He would always complain that she was disgusting, but when all was said and done, he always found the time for her. Until he kicked us out. He remembered the cheesy little promise they made when they were kids. He was the one that had brought spring to her desolate life. It was her feelings for him that rescued her from drowning completely in an ocean of vengeance.
バイオリン、もう一度くらい。
She wanted to play for his sake, if not hers. Then the moment of truth suddenly visited upon her. Her feet felt no pressure. Come on, man! Move your tired legs! Her heart leapt from her throat. Her blood began to flow backwards. She let out a pathetic scream. She reached for the window in a last stubborn attempt. It was in vain. The glass was just too smooth. She shut her eyes in despair. Suddenly, the sound of grass breaking interrupted the darkness. Good. So he did come to save me. Only, he was too late. Haru was already in midair. Gravity had invited her into death's maw. Now, Kyosuke, show me how much of a man you really are, and jump out the window after her! Her consciousness became intermittent and eventually cut off. At the very end, she thought she heard Kyosuke screaming. The idea that she had caused that scream left her final moments filled with regret. Okay, I was wondering why the text box went in advance for a little while. That was when Haru first noticed something calling her. Her brain, after recognizing itself as dead, reactivated at the stimulus. The now revitalized cells attempted to revive her functions as a whole. She felt a firm pressure in the area between her chest and stomach. It seemed to squeeze her. There was a slight warmth to it even. Managed to catch him? Its strength was bestial, and the whole sensation seemed to be a proclamation that whatever force had gripped her would not release its quarry. Haru! Her name was called again. This time, it was right next to her ears. Her body reacted to the heated breath. The voice was a man's. The only man who had ever said her name like that was her late father. Thus, this place must be hell. Open your eyes! But what was this burning sensation? It felt similar to when he held her. She didn't care if it was merely a dream. Haru decided to open her eyes. Just maybe. Right. Something like this had happened once before. The sky that day had burned with a glow of sunset. She had dropped her precious pocket watch. Something her mother had given her, but her life had been spared. The boy had held on to her firmly, as if to protect her. It was exactly like this. Attaboy! She could clearly feel his breath on her back. The ragged, yet gentle breathing belonged to the young boy from 10 years ago. Naturally, though, he was no longer the irrelevant lad he once was. Reverent, excuse me. You've been a real handful. You know that? Her tears flowed without end.
どうして私落ちたんじゃ。
Yeah, it was a close one, alright. Guns have this thing called a safety. If I had spent just a little more time fumbling around with it, you would have been a goner.
どういうこと？
I shot out the window.
それはなんとなく覚えているけれど。
She had no recollection of her arm being grabbed at the moment of the fall. But regardless, here she was inside the building, on the safety of solid ground.
間に合ったんだね。そっか。落ちたと思ったのは錯覚だったんだね。
That was no hallucination. You really did come falling down. So you got her! Come falling down? Kyosuke went on to explain. This is the 46th floor. I couldn't go any higher because of the fire shutter, so I decided I'd stay here and look around the building for the gondola you were on. You following me? And then you waited until she fell and then caught her right as she was coming down. Surprised that you had the strength to do that, all things considered. Her head was still a little foggy. The droning of his voice seemed to envelop her in a sort of sugary sensation. Your tits are huge, and your hair is crazy long, so catching you in the moment you fell was a piece of cake. Thank God for bust size.
そんな。
There was no way it could be as simple as he said. Haru was on either the 47th or 48th floor. The distance from there to here would have been 10 feet at absolute minimum. Taking into account her weight and the speed of the fall, no human being could just catch that and walk away perfectly fine. So how'd you do it? She looked over the window. The window frame was about 3 feet from the ground. He must have braced his lower body against that space. Otherwise, he would have gone tumbling over the edge along with her. You hung on to the bitter end, huh?
はい。
You were sticking to that window like a frog. He chuckled. Right. He was able to catch her because she had fallen so close to the window.
ありがとうございました。
You don't need to thank me. Just then, she felt the strength leave Kyosuke's arms. He expended the last of his energy. One look at his soot-stained clothes and slashed fingers was enough to tell the story of the hardships he must have faced. Really? You don't?
お金ですか？
No. His voice grew weaker. Just let me hear your violin. One more. Kyosuke went still after that. He was still breathing. He just lost consciousness. Haru began to squirm. But on the other hand, she thought it might be nice to stay like this a little longer. How wonderful it would be to just forget everything else and just fall asleep like this. Just a little longer, she thought. She would just lie a little longer in the arms of the man who nearly threw his life away to save her. I knew he'd do it, I apparently slept for quite some time. Thanks to the rest, my feverish haze has subsided a bit. Unfortunately, the endorphins masking the soreness in my legs and waist have subsided as well. The terrorists have already left the building, but just to be safe, we took those blasted stairs. We took our time and allowed for frequent rest breaks.
大丈夫ですか?
No, but, well... Yeah, no. Yeah, don't lie. I don't really like it when people worry about me. I tried to hide my wobbly legs.
実は移動した人質の居場所が分かったんです。
How'd you pull that one off?
ゴンドラに乗っている時に地上で移動するバスを見つけたんです。ビルの前から出発してちょうどセントラル街の奥のホテル街の方へ行きました。
You were able to follow it from up there?
ええ、バスは明るかったですし、移動するルートもネオンでいっぱいの明るい道でしたから。
I see. So what about it?
この情報は大きな武器になるのではないかと。
Now that you mention it, I think it would. I nod after a second of confusion. Yeah, I follow you. If the police know where the hostages are, particularly Imagawa, they can stop waiting and break the blockade. After considering our options for a moment, I spoke up. Let's get closer and check it out.
いいんですか?
Well, at least we would have a solid direction. I say it beats wandering around searching for an exit that we don't even know exists. And I can't lie. Backing out after coming out this far would leave a bad taste in my mouth. You and me both. The animal inside me howled, urging me to slay the one who felled the beast. Supporting each other with our shoulders, Usami and I head for Central Boulevard. Let's go slay Kane! The incident is now in its 17th hour. 500 hours. The police have been quick to act. I received word from a comrade in a coastal fishing village that the 3 prisoners had just been loaded onto the boat I prepared.
結構だ。鮫島利勝以外の2名は警察との取引に使ってもいいし、邪魔ならば海に突き落としても構わん。
Alright then. My victory has been assured. I'd say it takes care of everything but Kyosuke.
せいぜい頑張ってほしいものだな。
Don't disappoint me now, little brother. My other half. Yep, the fuck is still there. We just passed one of Eiichi's father's hotels.
確かあっちの通りの方へ。
Looks like you're right. There's a bus parked over there. It was stopped in front of a cheap motel. Armed men stood at the entrance.
あそこですね。
We eyed the hotel from the corner of a nearby alley. All of a sudden, a group of people stepped out the door. They all wore suits. They must be the hostages from Sano. I sighed in relief upon seeing that Iwai was among them. They were lining up and boarding the bus. There was no sign of Imagawa among them.
浅井さん、これではっきりしましたね。
Yeah. Imagawa is still in that hotel.
こちらは約束通り囚人を所定の場所で引き渡した。
ご苦労だった。ではこちらも人質を解放しよう。
今川議員も。
察しがいいことだ。 彼については仲間が操舵する船が日本の領海を出たら解放しよう。
封鎖区域で行われている暴力行為を即刻やめさせたまえ。
努力しよう。すぐに収まるものではないと思うがな。
さて、肝心の君たちの投稿についてだが。
慌てるな。約束は守る。もはやこの身がどうなろうとも構わない。
My conversation with Tokita was interrupted by a report from Alan, who had been surveying the area from the roof of the hotel. I chuckled. Victory was mine. No one can stop my father's ship now. Don't speak too soon. This chicken hasn't hatched yet. Now, let's finish this. I whispered to Usami. The problem will be getting the police to believe us.
ええ、もう少し明るければ写メでも撮ってやるところなんですが。
Do you think we could get any closer? The bus the hostages are boarding is pretty bright. The lights inside were shining brightly enough to illuminate the surroundings.
確かに明かりが取れそうですね。
How about we pretend to be a pair of rioters and casually walk by, and secretly take a picture? Getting a shot with both the hotel entrance and the hostages in the frame would be plenty enough to prove our claim. I don't think it's gonna pan out as well as you want it to, because I have a feeling you guys have already been spotted. We decide upon a course of action and set out nervously toward the bus.
時田警視正、少し待て。
I abruptly hang up the phone. I dash out the hotel entrance. I pull a gun from my suit and shove my way through the line of hostages boarding the bus. Here we go. Usami! She had fallen from the roof. I never imagined she would live to fight again and show up here of all places. Nonetheless, she and Kyosuke were casually strolling down the middle of the street. Why would they be here? They've obviously identified this location as the holding place for the hostages. They edge closer to the bus as they walk down the road. What are they planning to do by getting near the bus? I can say with a good degree of certainty that they aren't attempting to open fire and free the hostages. Something in Kyosuke's right hand flashed momentarily. A camera. So they intend to call the police, do they? I calmly opened fire. A bullet grazed my cheek. I turned around to the dark figure of Mawu.
ネズミが
Usami and I dashed off in tandem. My strained muscles screamed in agony. I commanded my body regardless. If I don't want to die, I had to move. We've got the photograph we need. All we have to do now is get away, and we're home free. Yeah, well, good luck, man. The sound of gunshots blared out once more. My survival instinct took over. I turned around and fired a shot of my own as I ran. I didn't manage to hit Mawu, of course, and all I managed was a wrist wrenched by recoil. It seemed to slow him down for a moment at least. We ran into a narrow alley. This alley's gonna be a dead end, isn't it? I followed the sound of gunfire into a narrow alley. Usami and Kyosuke had escaped into a blind alley, yet they were nowhere to be seen. 3 doors littered the alley's right wall, each appearing to be the rear entrance to a pub or similar joint. The left wall had a single door. It looked like it belonged to a storage room of some sort. Now, where have they run off to? It's gotta be one of the doors on the right. If they had chosen the left door, they would have ended up trapped and cornered. But maybe maybe they have chosen that and they're hoping that's the conclusion you'll come to? Pubs have front entrances, after all. Storage rooms are dead ends. The only unknown here is which of the three is the correct door. My best bet is probably the door closest to the alley entrance. If one was running in a panic, one wouldn't have the luxury of choosing one of the farther doors. I reached for the doorknob of the first door. It was locked. Did they lock it from the inside, or was it locked to begin with? Wait a minute. I know something peculiar about the farthest door. The keyhole had been shot through. I had heard a gunshot before arriving at this alley. This must be the one. I pushed the door open. I ducked and held my weapon at the ready, just in case they were planning an ambush. They're not here. It was just a dark pub. Was I wrong? The chairs were in disarray, and the tableware had all been cracked and broken. I screwed up. The interior was too disheveled to be the work of two people in the middle of a frantic escape. The lock had probably been shot through by a few rioting children looking for a good time. I say that means the gunshot I heard was just a diversion. Just then, I saw something move out of the corner of my eye. The door on the left-hand side of the alley, belonging to the storage room, slowly opened. Ha ha! They gotcha! The muzzle of a gun slowly pointed in my direction. I immediately went prone to avoid the bullet. As the bullet ricocheted off the floor with a high-pitched clang, I took out my transceiver and called for backup.
私だ。
The devil must be on Usami and Kyosuke's side today. It's been fun, but my will is unshakable. Even if you call the police at this point, you will accomplish nothing. I gave Alan the word.
おわさびは終わりだ。わかるな。
Mao didn't have as many soldiers as we initially thought. We managed to shake off our pursuers and reach the center of Central Boulevard. Usami panted heavily.
お怪我は
I'm fine. Though I feel like I've used an entire life's worth of energy in one day. My legs feel like 2x4s. Seeing as they felt the need to chase us, I guess that nails it. The hostages are in there.
ええ。しかし警察にどうやって画像を送ればいいのかと。
Call in a favor from Takeda.
なるほど。そういえばユキから2回くらい着信がありましたね。電話を受ける暇もなかったわけですが。
She's the daughter of a police big shot, isn't she? She might be able to convince her father that we aren't part of the angry mob. Usami whipped out her phone.
あ、もしもし、ユキか？私だ。うん、無事だ。そっか。ニュースで大体のことは分かってるな。今川議員の所在をつかんだ。今から画像をメールするから、なんとかしてお父上に取り計らってくれ。
Still, would the police force even accept a personal call during negotiations? Given how dire the situation is, I wouldn't discount the possibility that they would. Well, I guess if she lets them know it's an emergency pertaining to the case. The police wouldn't pass up on information concerning Representative Imagawa's whereabouts.
任せといてと言ってます。
I guess all we can do now is trust in Takeda.
やはり魔王なのかとも。
I see. Takeda has met him before, so she can relay what information she has to the police. Naturally, that will lead the police to question her about her relationship with Mao. Give me the phone for a second. I snatched the phone from Usami. Listen, Tokita.
元気？その様子じゃ元気じゃないみたいね。
Bit of an understatement. I didn't have time for her sarcastic small talk. Being tongue twisted. The mastermind behind this riot is Mao.
今聞いたわ。ニュースでは浅井と名乗っていると言っていたけれど。
Really now. Anyway, we were just attacked by the man himself a minute ago. Mao is definitely the one behind this.
わかったわ。私もこれから知っていることを警察に洗いざらい話すわ。
I thought so. Don't forget the money. You better not spout anything about the school hostage incident. Tokita responded after some hesitation. Very well. Oh, I don't know why I read that. She hung up. Even if she keeps quiet, though, she won't be getting off easy once they know about her involvement with Mao. She said that Mao had introduced her to a variety of criminals in the past. Tokia likely believes that she herself shouldered some sort of guilt each time he did so. Well, it's a pit she dug for herself. I'm sure she'll find a way to get out of it on her own. I guess the only thing left to do is sit back and pray the police come save us. Fortunately, I have a weapon. Effective or no. It should at least function as a deterrent to the rioting mobs. Is something wrong? She seemed to be mulling over something.
Yeah.
I don't believe you. What's on your mind?
何かが引っかかりましてね。
Like what, specifically?
いえ、漠然としているんですが、何かおかしいような。
After a dozen or so minutes, I resumed my negotiations with the police. Mr. Tokia's previously fluent speech suddenly stumbled.
投降してこい。今から1時間以内に武装を解除し。
なんだ？
なんでもない機材のトラブルだ。さてどこまで話したかな。
Something must have happened.
どうした浅井。
The image Kyosuke took must have just reached the task force.
おい、聞こえているのか。
It's only a matter of time before either their special assault team comes charging in.
ああ、聞こえている。安心してくれ。約束通り投降の用意はある。
だが未だに人質は解放されていないが。
The police have started to take a more forward attitude. That just about confirms my suspicions.
負傷者がいるため手間取っていた。今人質を乗せたバスが発進したところだ。
I've won regardless. We're past the point of no return. I've already managed to save Father. Having accomplished my lifelong goal, my mind wandered to thoughts of my mother. After waiting for 10, 20 minutes, there was still no sign of an upcoming police raid.
なぜでしょうね。
I don't know, but I suppose the most probable reason would be that they don't have a good point of attack.
ですね。なんとかしてこちらから作れないものでしょうか。
Usami's eyes told me she was serious. It couldn't hurt to give it a shot, at least. The fighting spirit I had cultivated over the past couple days revived once again. As we had just seen, the number of professional soldiers is overwhelmingly few in comparison to the rioting mobs. There must be a weak point in the blockade somewhere. If we could just move one of the trucks blocking the roads. Hey, Sami, Do you have Haribi's cell phone number?
はい。アイスアリーナの一件で。
With his help, we should be able to do something about the kids protecting the choke points.
では、
You bet. If the police aren't going to blow this blockade, then we're just going to have to do it for them and invite them in. I won't let you have your way, Mawu. I can understand my brother's sorrow. I failed to protect Mom, so maybe I don't have a right to criticize Somejima Kyohei. I think you got plenty of right to criticize him, personally. However, Mawu tried to kill Osami. He toyed with her on multiple occasions. Wouldn't you say that's plenty enough cause for retribution, brother? I just received word that the boat has left Japanese waters. Father is currently in the process of boarding a different ship. Relief heaved from my heart and my lips alike. I had finally attained repose. It was a long time in coming. I shed a few uncharacteristic tears. Even the devastation permeating the streets overwhelmed me with emotion. This is the last time I'll ever see scenery like this. I agree. The phone rang incessantly, informing me of Superintendent Tokida's call. I lifted the phone to my ear.
協力を感謝する。警視正。
Leaving that simple statement, I calmly ended the phone call.
全員、撤収準備は済んでいるな。
I bade farewell to the comrades I had asked to assist me in painting this portrait of hell. Granted, most of them merely joined up for the pay.
以上で解散とする。
And now I am alone. Move aside if you don't want to die. I pointed my gun at the kid dozing off in the driver's seat of the bus. He turned to me with a face that said, "What the fuck do you want?" Then he caught sight of the three grizzled ogres, Soniyama men, behind me. Where could this vehicle have been stolen from anyway? Two gargantuan buses parked end to end blocked one of the streets leading to Central Boulevard. We approached one of the two buses in an attempt to seize the vehicle. The kid who was occupying the driver's seat ran away in terror. The rest is up to you, Haribi.
わかりやしたよ。なーに、キーがなくても車を動かす方法はあるんですわ。はい。
Haribi produced a screwdriver and issued an order to one of the men. I left them to their own, deciding not to be privy to this method of Grand Theft Auto.
浅井さん。
What's up? She seemed to have something on her mind.
いえ、ぞろぞろと人が集まり始めましたよ。
Oh boy, sounds like the perfect opportunity to have a free-for-all. They must have heard the commotion. More boys started to show up one by one. One of the Yakuza guys fired a few warning shots through a window with his submachine gun. "You need to open your eyes!" I shouted as loud as I could. "The police will be here soon! It's all over for us!" A murmur ran along the crowd of boys. They might be worn down from all this. They were likely afraid now that they come to their senses and witnessed the immeasurable destruction they caused. I decided I'd capitalize on that fear. "The police have found where the hostages are being held. They're going to come charging in here any minute." I'll wake them from their foolish dream of creating a nation just for kids. "We were just being used. Throw down your weapons. If you don't, you'll likely be killed by the police." More submachine gun fire. More than 50 people had gathered by now. Someone among them shouted, "Yeah, he's right!" It sounded somewhat familiar. Perhaps it belonged to Hashimoto. Or perhaps I merely wanted to believe that. The murmurs accelerated into chaos. The crowd had already exceeded 100. It no longer consisted of solely young boys. The middle-aged and elderly had joined them out there. Looks like there were more survivors than I thought. Luckily, not a single member of the rumbling herd was attempting to cause harm upon another. The rioters were preoccupied with thoughts about saving their own necks. I hear the bus engine fire up behind me. There's no need to stir the crowd any further. The bus scrapes against the building wall as it heads slowly forward. The blockade is breaking. The Somiyama men driving the bus blared the horn as he drove into the crowd of people. "Move if you don't want to be pancake!" They were no longer a violent mob. It was every man for himself as they rushed toward the outside world. Now's our chance. Help! If we don't want to be caught by the police, we need to get the hell out of here! Screams and yells weaved together in the pandemonium. A nearby police squad shouted orders via megaphone in an attempt to quell the rushing human tide. "Stop! Remain calm!" It was futile. The crowd continued their advance like a tsunami. The riot police, equipped with Duralumin shields, seemed to be at a loss for how to handle the incoming crowd. I guess since they were neither rioters nor protesters, they weren't sure how to deal with them. The group of refugees include people of all sorts, from young boys to the elderly. Businessmen, yakuza, foreigners, students. A large variety of people had all been trapped in Central Boulevard up until now, after all. Among them were men covered in blood, and women barely covering themselves with their tattered clothes. Now that the kids had disarmed themselves, there was no distinguishing between civilians and rioters. The officers decided to just take on everyone regardless, but in the end, they were swallowed up in the mob. They frantically requested backup. Another police group appeared shortly thereafter, pushing itself through the waves of people. There seemed to be about 20 of them. Their uniforms and equipment were clearly different from the first group of officers. They wore guns at their sides. They were likely a special assault team or something. The group entered formation and tore through the crowd. Their trained, nimble movements seemed like a lightning bolt ripping through the stormy sea of people. They paid us absolutely no heed as they made their way to the end of the street in a flash. They seemed to be headed for the cheap motel Usami and I had snapped a picture of. This should spell the end for Mawu. I couldn't hear her very well over the incessant tumult. The phone? For me? Who would want to talk to me in this situation? I made my way out of the crowd. Who is it? She wore a rather grim expression. I took the phone from Usami with some hesitation. Hello? The voice on the other end left me a gap. I forget. Is this Hashimoto's This is Hashimoto's cell phone I'm using, right? If that's the case, then that would certainly explain how Kyohei has this has my number here. I lost all words. Likewise, the clamor around me suddenly seemed to disappear.
驚いているだろうな。
What do you want? Mao responded in a calm voice, one unlike any he had used before.
最後に少し話がしたくてな。
Oh, now you want to talk? Huh? I felt a lump forming in my throat.
父さんはついに釈放された。だからもう思い残すことはない。
What? I had no idea. The police accepted Mao's demands? And?
いや、それだけだ。
That's all? I had no idea how to interpret my current feelings. I saw the image of my loving brother superimposed onto my hatred of Mao, and my heart became a jumbled mess. You're not planning to die, are you? Mao didn't answer. And that was all the answer I needed. It was obvious, now that I think about it. I mean, he was able to occupy Central Boulevard, sure. But what exactly was his escape plan? The scale might be huge, but in the end, he had holed himself up. You've planned on dying all along.
せんないことだ。
That was when, for the very first time, I bore witness to the extent of Mao's resolve. His entire life, he had been on his own. On his own, he challenged the country. On his own, he won. But the price he paid was his very life. But you've committed many serious crimes.
分かっている。
You deceived and killed a large number of people.
分かっている。
It's not something that can just be forgiven. I found myself clenching my fists. But Mao, no, Kyohei, had not called me to seek forgiveness.
お前が封鎖を解除したんだな、京介。やればできるじゃないか。そうか。強くなったんだな。
My chest burned. I wanted to scream. But it was my fault that Mom.
運命だ。
He tried to comfort me, and that's when I couldn't take it anymore. My family was all leaving me. First Kiyomi, then Mom, and now even my once dead brother.
なんと呪われた一家か。
He spoke in self-derision.
しかし、私とお前は違う。
Nisan,
私は復讐にだけ生きてきた。けれどお前には、ほら、隣にいるのだろう。
you saw me. Yeah, she is. She's trying to listen in on our conversation, actually. She must be worried about me. Nisan laughed.
私はその少女を許すことができなかった。お前は許せ。許して、復讐の業を断ち切るがいい。
Is this seriously how this is gonna end? Just like this? I no longer had any clue of what to say. We just spent the time in silence. Snowflakes were dancing in the wind.
さらばだ、京介。
At that moment, the dark night sky was overcome with a red glow. He blew himself up? Puffs of dark smoke rose up into the air, and throngs of people came running from the same direction. I could hear the police screaming into their walkie-talkies. I could barely make out a couple words among them. Motel. Bomb. I stood aghast with the cell phone still up to my ear. I just want to forget everything. Was there something I could have said to him in his final moments? To everyone else, he was the nefarious Maul. But to me, he was still my one and only brother. He-san. I pushed the redial button on the cell phone. I was in a daze. Naturally, the call wasn't going to reach him. Regardless, I tried over and over. A long-haired girl grabbed onto my arm.
浅井さん
Her words were brief, but harsh.
騙されてはいけません
Usami's eyes gorged on enmity. I fucking knew there was no way it could end just like that. You son of a bitch. Well, time to make my escape. I came to the roadblock that Kyosuke had been kind enough to clear. Blending in among the crowd, I made my way to the exit. Wait, so that's how he knew I cleared the blockade, because he was right there! Kyosuke, please cave this man's face in. He really, really, really needs a facelift, so to speak. Me? Die? You've got to be kidding. Why would I bother with such a thing when I can finally be my father again? You had just one last moment to redeem at least a part of yourself in my eyes with that phone call, and you literally just blew it. Congratulations, I guess. You've pretty much thoroughly proven to this point that you're just a despicable piece of crap, and that you thoroughly deserve everything that's coming your way. The hero's entourage does great work. They led the assault team right to the motel, just as I had predicted. I armed a large payload of explosives inside. It was rigged to detonate the exact moment the attack team opened the door to Imagawa's holding room. The only thing the police will find are burnt corpses. The remains of terrorists, all dressed in military garb and equipped with weapons. Having accomplished their goal, the extremists gave up at the presence of the assault team and went out with a suicide bombing. It's a lovely scenario. So you basically just set up your comrades to die in order to help cover for your own escape route. You really do live up to your name. That's all I gotta say. Of course, they're not actually our corpses. Oh, never mind. Yes, they belong to the Sano employees. That's why we went out of our way to take an equal number of male hostages to our own numbers, and why we killed off the women first. We did have to get them on the bus, but soon after, had them come right back inside. It was fortunate that Kyosuke caught the exact moment they were boarding the bus in his photograph. It'll take time to analyze the corpses and determine whether or not they truly belong to us. By the time the autopsy reports are in, we'll be long gone from this accursed country. No one among the riders knows my face. The only ones in the area that do are Usame and Kyosuke. And if I stick within this crowd of people, I can easily shake off the police outside. I should thank you, hero. Yes, I played around with you for the sake of this very moment.
Azai-san, これは罠です。
Huh? You saw me grab my arm as it shook over the loss of my brother.
どうもうまくことが運びすぎていると思ったんです。
What do you mean?
魔王はいつでも私を殺すことができました。なのに殺さなかった。わざわざ私を山王物産の屋上に連れて行った時から魔王の関係は始まっていたんです。さも演出だのお遊びだの言いながら私が人質の居場所を探ることを予想していたんです。魔王は私に銃口を突きつけて屋上から突き落としました。しかしその時は気づきませんでしたが、今思えば魔王はきちんと私をゴンドラのある位置まで誘導していたんです。
Wait! Are you actually expecting me to believe that he somehow planned for Kyosuke to escape to get to the building at the precise moment that he does in order to rescue Haru from the gondola, and then break through the blockade after getting the picture of the bus with the hostages and all that stuff? You're actually expecting me to believe that he actually planned for all that? How the fuck could he have done that?
それが証拠に魔王はゴンドラに引っかかった私を殺しませんでした。屋上からいくらでも狙い撃ちにできたはずなのに。
I suppose that's true. One would think you would double check to make sure she fell. Yeah, I certainly did.
それからわざわざ明かりを全開にした大型バスを使い、これまた不自然なまでに明るい道を選んで人質を移動させました。
That's right. That sounds way too convenient to be true. So you were being used? What? One of this guy's driving motivations throughout the whole fucking story was killing Haru. He had the perfect opportunity right then and there to do just that. I mean, if he actually wanted... Okay. Why did he need Kyosuke and Haru to open the blockade for him? When he could have just gone charging through with his group of mercenaries and then just get out that way. Did he actually really need Kyosuke and Haru for this? I feel like I'm not understanding something here.
おそらく私が助かることまでは予想してなかったでしょう。けれど携帯電話で人質の居場所を浅井さんに伝えるぐらいはできると考えたはずです。次にあのホテルで写真を撮った時です。
Cell phone. Yeah.
なぜ魔王はもっと必死に追ってこなかったのでしょうか。
I couldn't think of a response.
彼らはプロです。山王物産のそばに隠れていた私を音もなく捕まえた彼らがなぜ私たちみたいな素人を取り逃がしたんでしょうか。
You're right. Not to mention, the only one chasing us was Mao himself. At the time, I was just relieved to have shaken off our pursuers.
そしてこの封鎖地点の防備の脆さです。私たちが結束して解ける程度なら警察も苦労もなく乗り越えてきていたでしょう。
So, we were used in order to invite the police inside? Usami nodded.
見てください。特殊部隊が人の群れを割るようにこちらに進んできたことでさらなる大混乱が発生しています。
I still don't understand why he needed us in particular in order to accomplish this. Couldn't he have just done it all himself? It was almost difficult to breathe in the congestion. In every direction, wherever you looked, people, people, people. Riot police, businesswomen, senior citizens, officers, young boys, exotic dancers. Stampeding herds of people were everywhere. Well, at least the exotic dancers are safe. After realizing that I had been deceived, I burned with fury. It's the perfect opportunity for Mau's escape. The biggest point of concern for me was the timing. I didn't want to lead the police into the motel until after negotiations had succeeded. If the police had taken longer to release Father, then I would have needed to delay Kyosuke's actions. So, okay, then yeah, you did count on Kyosuke being the one to help make this whole plan of yours come to fruition. So once again, I ask, how exactly were you able to account for when Kyosuke would escape his confinement and get to the building? How were you able to keep track of that? Can I get an explanation for that, please? And the more time passed, the more likely Kyosuke and Usami were to have their camera or cell phones confiscated by children. But of course, I had also accounted for the possibility that they didn't follow my lead. If that scenario had played out, one of my comrades would have betrayed me and leaked the location of the hostages. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna shut up for a little while and just let everybody talk for a bit until I think I get a complete picture of how this of what exactly is going on here. And then, if I still have any objections at that point, after everything has been completely explained to me, I'll voice them. I would also have broken the blockade on my own. But much to my entertainment, those two performed splendidly. I would never have dreamed that Usami might survive. You truly have grown stronger, Kyosuke. And the excessive sentimentality that no doubt led to you to save her has always been one of your charms, ever since you were a boy. I wonder if you're crying for me now. I really want to see your face caved in so much right now. Just as I approach the exit, I hear a shout from behind me.
Mao!
They were clearly calling for me. I turned around, and there, standing behind a lady of the night, was Usami! That's a good look. That's a good facial expression that you got there. It suits you. She realized what I was up to? If you stepped back and thought about things calmly and logically with a detached eye, you would find some suspicious points, yes. But she's been on the verge of death numerous times by now. Are you telling me she saw through my plan despite being a death trap for damn near 24 hours? I suppose I must admit I did. I told you your freaking habit of playing with your prey would come back to bite you in the ass. So if nothing else, I feel good of being validated on that point. I had a little too much fun with Usami. She managed to grow into a hero that surpassed even my own expectations. Shit! Usami's long hair grabbed the attention of the cops, and, at her heating, they turned their fangs against me. Better start running! You there! Don't move! Police cars rushed toward me. The riot police held up their shields in an attempt to block my way forward. Did I lose sight of the big picture by adhering too tightly to my plans? Yes, you did. Rather than continue toward the exit, I doubled back and searched for another means of escape. I pushed aside the people in the crowd and shot anyone who got in my way. I heard a scream. The police held up their guns and shouted something. Pay no heed to any of it. I came upon the bus that had been blocking the road. The door at the front was open. White smoke was puffing out of the exhaust pipe. The engine had been left running. After climbing up the step onto the bus, I turned around and fired randomly behind me. I ducked into the bus and shot out the window. I hit one of the officers that had been pursuing me in the process. I took steady aim with my gun. The scene spiraled down to hell. Mao was starting to shoot out from inside the bus. Bullets crisscrossed, and people collapsed to the ground. Corpses piled up in the crossfire, with people literally falling onto the recently dead.
浅井さん、銃を貸してください。
Usami latched on me with bloodshot eyes. What the hell? Calm down!
殺すんです、今しかない。
She was overtaken by frenzy.
あいつはあなたを騙したんだ。
She shot through a pool of sweat and tears.
卑劣にお母さんを殺したんだ。
Don't get any stupid ideas!
憎くないんですか？
Yeah, I do! He tried to trick me from beginning to end. But there's nothing you can do in this situation. The police have already gone near the bus. They have him cornered and have shot out the tires. But I don't think that bus would be going anywhere regardless. The road was littered with people, like an orgy from hell.
離してください。
She must have been possessed by the vengeful spirits of the dead. Usami was unrelenting in her advance. Usami, stop! She was getting too close to the bus. Mau started moving toward our side of the bus, the rear. The terrorist's silhouette was visible in the emergency exit. Run! You idiot! The police were unable to shoot out of fear of hitting us. Looks like they were having trouble getting a complete encirclement of the bus thanks to the surrounding bedlam.
あいつを殺してバイオリンを弾くんだ。
The cursed hero's screams of carnage were suddenly followed by the sound of gunfire. A bullet shot through the window of the bus and caused a splatter of blood. Mao's scream tore through the night. Just then, the inside of the bus suddenly flashed red. Flames licked the air. They spread to the gasoline that had spilled out along the road. An array of soft bangs and loud booms rumbled through the atmosphere. Was he carrying explosives on his person, only to have them accidentally ignite? Nearby buildings and trees were caught in the conflagration, and further fueled its raging. The police gave out orders for everyone to retreat to safety, making no attempt to quell this tragedy. The vehicle was enveloped in flames. Mao cried out on the throes of death. I watched as he made it out of the bus. He collapsed to the ground in a ball of flame. Even still, Mao maintained his grip on his gun. His tenacity was otherworldly. The flames transfigured him into a demon as he slowly rose to his feet. And starts walking toward us. However, he didn't make but a few steps before sinking to the ground. Come on, Usami! Let's get the hell out of here! We ran. Frankly, he went out in a way that I think is honestly pretty freaking deserving, all things considered. Completely undignified and anticlimactic. I took Usami by the arm and charged through the crowds of people. We were surrounded by a menagerie of voices. Officers' shouts. Women's screams. Explosions. Earth-shaking, stampeding footsteps. The sirens of fire engines. As we were passing a police car, I overheard them say something over the radio. We have confirmed the death of the suspect. I have no idea how far we ran. I held Usami in my arms, stroking her hair. She just sobbed into my chest the entire time. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She apologized, regretting her own brutality. It's okay now, Usami. I was hit by a wave of exhaustion. It's over now. It's all over, Haru. Usami stood a gap, like a princess whose evil curse had suddenly been lifted.
そうなんだ。
Yeah,
そっか。
come on. Smile or something. We're safe now, you know. However, her expression showed no sign of brightening. She burst out in a wail, making no effort to wipe her tears. The snow on her eyelids accentuated this portrait of sorrow. Come on, Haru. Let's go. I brought her more strongly into my embrace and took on all her tears. Let's go home and listen to some classical music. What to do? I've been told by one of my viewers that the epilogue to this whole story is roughly about an hour and a half long. And if I'm now finally at that point, then I'm tempted to just go ahead and end things here, even though it would be a bit short compared to what I've been putting out recently. And then just save the remainder of the epilogue for the next episode. Yeah, I think that's just what I'll do. I don't want to end up creating something that could be like over 3 hours long or something like that here. I think that'd be a bit much for a lot of people to sit through, and a lot for me to make, and yeah. So I'm just gonna go with the assumption that we're now finally at the epilogue stage of things, and I'm just gonna go ahead and cut things here. And I guess we'll save whatever's left of the story for the next episode. If somehow the whole thing ends up going on a lot farther than I expected, then, well, I don't know. Maybe I'll split it up and do a two-parter or something like that. But that is, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But, yeah. The big bad's finally dead. And he went out in a pretty anticlimactic fashion. Normally I would feel pretty freaking disappointed about that, but considering how much of a thorough job he did at making me hate him by the very end, I can't really be all that upset about it. At least at this point. Maybe I will later. Who knows? But I gotta say though, thinking about it now, that last little bait and switch that he pulled on us at the very end, it just kind of feels like it was just put in there just to serve as one last reminder that this guy is an irredeemable scumbag, and that we should thoroughly hate him and absolutely enjoy whatever miserable fate would end up befalling him shortly thereafter. And I mean, I guess on that front, if that's what they were going for, well, congratulations, you succeeded. But I think it would have actually been better if he actually did go out on a somber note, having one last actually good conversation with Kyosuke. Because even though it wouldn't have done anything at all to excuse all the horrendous shit he did throughout the story, it would have at least humanized him a little bit before he went out. You know what I mean? It would have given Kyohei one last moment to show that, in spite of everything that he's done, he wasn't a complete monster that only cared about what himself and what he wanted. Everybody and everything else be damned. That at the very end of it all, there was indeed still something human in him. You know? Him going out the way he did with that bait and switch, it just kind of feels like it cheapens his character for me at the very end. And it's kind of similar to the criticism I have of the big twist a few episodes back, where we found out that he wasn't actually a split personality of Kyosuke. I felt like that ended up retroactively cheapening his character a lot too. But, well, I've already, I think I'll save that bit for the finale, along with other thoughts I may have about the story at that point. But you know what? But my point is, I feel like the last few bits of the story here have just basically gone out of its way to cheapen the three-dimensional aspect of his character that I actually liked. Like, he just wasn't some freaking supervillain that was only out for himself and what he wanted and nothing else at the end of the day. I mean, yeah, sure, he still had some complexity to him even after the big twist was revealed to us, and we learned about how he came to be through his mercenary training and all that. He still had some complexity to him, even after the fact. I'm not going to deny that, but not as much as I felt he could have had and would have ultimately benefited from as a character, if not for how certain things ended up playing out in the end. Does that make sense? But anyway, I really should be saving a lot of these thoughts for the final episode after everything is all said and done, and I have plenty of time to just think about the entire story and the entire journey from start to finish as a whole and reflect on it, and then just form my conclusions there. So, with all that being said, I'm just going to go ahead and end things here. Even though this ended up being a bit shorter than the last few episodes have been, I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of The Devil on G-String. If you did, and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. And before I forget, if you want, feel free to hit that like button as well. Turns out I forgot that hitting the like button tends to help get a person's videos out, and make a person's reach in the YouTube algorithm a bit more favorable. So if you want to do that, feel free to hit the like button. It's completely optional, but if you do, I would appreciate it nonetheless. And I guess I will see you all next time for the finale. Take care.